Hello, I'm Adessa Perez, here known as Coach Adessa. I want to take a moment with you and introduce how I show up in this work. Over the last several years, I've learned how to follow my calling and to truly understand my purpose. And what that's led me to is being here with you. I'm here to help you see yourself clearly, the patterns, the choices, the ways you've learned to live, and what's been underneath all of it. What I'm about to share with you isn't something I created to sound good. It's something I've lived, clarified, and now speak fully. This is my philosophy. This is how I understand people. This is how I guide. The reform method, a structured path from survival mode to resilience and whole self reform. This is me. I don't fit into one way of seeing people. I don't separate life into categories that were never meant to be divided. I see behavior. I see patterns. I see influence. I see the internal battles people don't always have words for. I speak across them. I speak through behavior, philosophy, spirituality, and lived experience, not as separate systems, but as one reality. Some will hear this as psychology. Some will hear this as philosophy. Some will hear it as something deeper. I don't force one language. I translate what is real so it can be understood, faced, and lived. I am not here to label people. I'm not here to define them by their worst moments. I am not here to make them fit into a system. I am here to help them see clearly, to understand what is driving them, to take responsibility for their choices, and to return to who they truly are, not who they became to survive, not who they learned to perform, but who they are when they are no longer escaping their life. This is the work. This is my purpose. This is my passion. How I read behavior. I do not rush to reduce people to what they did in a moment. Many behaviors are not as intentional as they appear. Some are conditioned, some are absorbed, some are survival based. Some are the result of never being guided, redirected, or truly taught how to live differently. This does not remove responsibility. It changes how responsibility is approached. I do not believe in assumption-based support. I do not believe in speaking to people as if awareness is already present simply because the behavior is visible. What is visible is not always what is understood. Behavior often reveals what still needs to be seen, taught, reconditioned, or brought into awareness. This is why my work is not built on shame, labels, or surface correction. It is built on guided discovery, direct truth, and helping people understand what is driving them so they can live with more awareness, responsibility, and alignment. I do not excuse poor choices. I help people see them clearly, understand them honestly, and learn how to make better ones. Once behavior is seen clearly, the next step is learning how to face reality instead of negotiating with it. Accepting reality. Life has non negotiables. Reform begins when we stop negotiating with what is and start engaging with what's required. Acceptance stabilizes. Resistance prolongs suffering. Escape keeps you in survival mode. Life is not random chaos, it is instructional. Every experience introduces a lesson, a limit, or a non negotiable truth. We may not like the lesson. We may not agree with the timing, but we do not have authority over life's teaching methods. We can reject the lesson, we can fight it, we can escape it. Life is patient and persistent. Lessons return when they are not engaged. Accepting reality does not mean approving of everything that happens. It means acknowledging what is true in the moment and choosing to engage with it instead of negotiating against it. When we stop fighting reality, we regain stability. When we accept that discomfort is part of growth, we stop personalizing every challenge as punishment. Acceptance is not weakness. It is in alignment with how life actually operates. To accept reality is also to begin accepting yourself. You cannot reject the lesson that shaped you and fully embrace who you are becoming. Forced acceptance, the unpleasant, unplanned, unwanted moments, are often the gateways to personal power. They reveal our limits, our attachments, our illusions, and our capacity to grow. You cannot see what is on the other side of a lesson without walking through it. Reform begins here. How I guide accepting reality. I do not soften distortion. When avoidance is present, I name it. When blame replaces responsibility, I interrupt it. When a false narrative protects the ego, I challenge it directly without shaming the person behind it. I help clients understand what life is teaching through their lived experience. We look at patterns. We look at repeated outcomes. We examine the natural consequences of choices on their quality of life, their relationships, and their sense of self. I do not impose consequences. Life already has. My role is to make them visible. I also confront escape. We look honestly at what escape has produced: numbness, delay, temporary relief, but no lasting change. Life does not pause. What is avoided is postponed. What is postponed often compounds. I help clients see the difference between instant gratification and heart's desire. Impulse reacts, the heart endures. When a person begins choosing what aligns with their deeper desire instead of what offers immediate relief, agency strengthens. I separate what is controllable from what is not. I redirect energy away from resisting reality and toward engaging it. The goal is not compliance, it is being present. Clarity stabilizes. From there, reform begins. The endurance model. Life unfolds as roller coasters, obstacle courses, struggle bus rides, and detours, each designed to build strength, skill, and self awareness through lived experience. Life is structured to teach. It is not designed to be free of friction, detours, or discomfort. It is designed to develop us through them. What feels random often carries meaning. What feels delayed often reflects preparation. What feels like loss often reveals misalignment. Life does not remove your free will, it reveals how you are using it. You are free to resist. You are free to escape. You are free to build a version of yourself shaped by fear, influence, or illusion. But avoidance does not prevent instruction, it prolongs it. Many people do not lack intelligence or potential. They are shaped by toxic influences that disconnect the mind from the core. When the mind loses alignment with the core, a false self can form, reactive, defensive, externally driven. The true self does not disappear. It waits to be heard. It waits to be chosen. Life's endurance seasons expose the gap between who we are acting as and who we truly are. Life teaches through lived experience, through tension, through limits, through loss, through responsibility, through redirection. This is not punishment, it is formation. To understand this, we must recognize the terrain. Roller coasters, emotional highs and lows that test regulation and perspective. Obstacle courses, skill building challenges that require effort and adaptation. Struggle bus rides, seasons of depletion that demand humility and recalibration. Detours, unexpected redirections that realign us with purpose. These are not signs that you are broken. They are invitations to reconnect with your core and build endurance instead of escape. Endurance builds capacity. Capacity builds resilience. Resilience builds reform. You are not meant to bypass the curriculum of life. You are meant to engage it consciously. How I guide the endurance model. When someone says, "Why is this happening?" I do not rush to soothe it. I help them zone out. Life is a 24/7 operation. It does not pause, it does not remove every obstacle, it does not smooth every ride. The roller coasters, the obstacle courses, the struggle bus rides, the detours. This is not an interruption of life. It is life. I normalize the terrain. I help them see that day-to-day living and learning are lifelong. There is no graduation from growth. Forced acceptance is part of maturity. Some lessons are not optional. I reduce catastrophic thinking by restoring clarity. This is not the end of your story. This is a lesson within it. Then I help them understand how they learn. Some learn through reflection, some through repetition, some through consequences, some through confrontation, some through silence, some through structure. I observe their learning style and translate the lesson in a way they can actually receive. Life may be the teacher, but some need help understanding the curriculum. I serve as that bridge. I help them see what is being strengthened in them, not as punishment, but as formation. Personal power does not remove hardship. It equips you to live through it. The goal is not to get off the ride. It is to engage it consciously and learn from it well. The more willingly you engage life, the less violently it has to get your attention. The return to self. Self-discovery is not a one-time realization. It is a process of returning to yourself in stages. Most people have only known a version of themselves shaped by survival, influence, or lack of guidance. They have not yet experienced themselves fully, clearly, honestly, and without distortion. In my work, returning to self happens through a progression. See self. You begin to see yourself clearly, your patterns, your behaviors, your choices, and the reality of how you've been living. Without this, deflection remains. Hear self. You begin to hear your inner voice, not the noise, not the influence, not the reaction, but your actual thoughts, emotions, and needs. This restores awareness and connection. Believe in self. You begin to recognize that you are capable of growth, change, and becoming more than what you've been. This shifts you out of limitation and into possibility. Trust self. You begin to trust your judgment, your instincts, and your ability to make decisions aligned with your values. This is where personal power begins to stabilize. Value self. You begin to treat yourself as someone worth showing up for. You live with more self-respect, intention, and alignment, not because you are told to, but because you recognize your worth. This is not a linear process. People move back and forth through these stages as they grow. But without moving through them, real reform does not take place. This is how a person returns to their true self, not by force, not by performance, but through awareness, responsibility, and lived experience. Personal power. Personal power is the authority to own your responsibility, align your choices with your values, and refuse to escape your own life. Personal power is the return of agency. It is what happens when you stop outsourcing your life, when acceptance stabilizes you. Something begins to shift. You react less. You reflect more. You stop scanning others for answers and start examining your own alignment. Personal power is not loud. It is steady. It is the willingness to look at yourself without deflection, to take responsibility without collapsing, to choose your response instead of being carried by impulse. It reconnects the mind to the core. When the mind is tainted by influence, fear, or survival patterns, a version of you forms that is reactive and externally driven. Personal power interrupts that pattern. It does not create a new self. It restores the real one. You begin to hear yourself clearly. You begin to trust your inner voice. You stop negotiating your values to avoid discomfort. This is where self-discovery deepens. You see yourself honestly. You hear your core without distortion. You begin to believe what you see, and you trust your judgment. You value who you are becoming. At the same time, stability strengthens. Certainty replaces confusion. Clarity replaces avoidance. Consistency replaces impulsivity. Comfort grows through acceptance. Courage becomes practiced, not performed. Personal power is not about controlling life. It is about leading yourself within it with awareness, responsibility, and intention. When personal power returns, engagement returns. Effort becomes willing, growth becomes chosen. Reform is no longer forced. It becomes owned. How I guide personal power. When personal power is weak, the false self is in control. I name it. I help clients see when their choices are being driven by fear, conditioning, stress, trauma, addiction patterns, regret, or unresolved influence. The forces that quietly overpower decision making. In my philosophy, we have we all have what I refer to as a demon. It is not theatrical. It is the internal force that uses our vulnerabilities to win control. When we are under its influence, we become reactive. We compromise our values. We operate from distortion. We allow it to shape a false version of who we are. That is the loss of personal power. I expose that pattern clearly. We examine the evidence in their own life, where they reacted instead of responding, where they escaped instead of enduring, where their decisions were driven by influence instead of intention. Not to shame, but to reclaim authority. Then I speak to the version of them that is not distorted. I can see it. I can hear it, even when they cannot. Some of that comes from experience and pattern recognition, some from discernment I do not ignore. I use it to serve. We begin shaping a vision rooted in their real character, not their conditioned identity. We build a development plan that strengthens certainty, clarity, consistency, comfort, and courage. So personal power becomes stability, not temporary. And when personal power strengthens, the shift is unmistakable. They stop surrendering to the demon's voice. They stop negotiating their worth. They stop collapsing under pressure. They begin leading themselves. Personal power is not control. It is a self-led agency. It is the ability to move through fear, stress, and temptation without handing over your authority. It is becoming the one who chooses instead of the one who is carried. When someone experiences that alignment, even briefly, they feel the difference. And once they feel it, they no longer want to live under its influence. They want to live self-led. Accountability in my work. Accountability is not about correction. It is about awareness, responsibility, and better choices. I do not believe in calling people out to break them down. I call people on to bring their behavior into awareness and guide them towards something better. Before I assume a behavior is fully chosen, I look at what may be underneath it. What has been learned? What has been absorbed? What has never been corrected? What is being avoided or not yet understood? This does not remove responsibility. It ensures responsibility is placed where it belongs, with clarity, not assumption. When poor choices are made, I address them directly, not to fix the person, but to help them see what happened, why it matters, and how to move differently. Accountability in my work is immediate, clear, and grounded in truth, but it is never rooted in shame, humiliation, or the need to prove a point. I do not focus on you did wrong. I guide toward this is what is better. Because people do not grow from being reduced to their worst moments. They grow from understanding them and learning how to choose differently. Boundaries are part of this process. There are moments where behavior must be stopped, redirection, or no longer engaged. Not as punishment, but as protection for the person. the work, and the environment around them. Accountability is not about control. It is about helping a person develop the awareness and responsibility needed to live in alignment with who they are becoming. Emotional regulation. Resilience is practiced through 4 disciplines: respond, not react, release, reset, and recharge. Resilience is not a personality trait. It is practiced in self-management. You cannot endure life if you cannot manage yourself within it. Self-management is the steady discipline of staying aligned in your reactions, your energy, your choices, and your direction. The 4 R's are how that discipline is practiced. Respond. You choose your behavior instead of being carried by impulse. You pause long enough for the core to lead the mind. Release. You allow emotion to move instead of storing it. You acknowledge what you feel without letting it govern who you become. Reset. You realign after disruption. You return to clarity instead of spiraling into fixation. Recharge. You restore your energy intentionally. You respect your limits so endurance remains possible. This is not occasional work. It is ongoing. Respond, release, reset, recharge. Through repetition, self-management strengthens. Through self-management, resilience forms. The more capable you are of managing yourself, the less life manages you. And when life tests you, as it will, you remain steady, self-driven, and able to continue. How I guide emotional regulation. The 4 R's. When someone escalates, I do not entertain the reaction. I interrupt it. Reaction is fast, impulsive, and often misaligned with who they are meant to become, not just who they think they are. Many people have only gotten to know their false self. They have not yet lived from their true character. I help them see themselves in that moment clearly, not to embarrass them, but to recognize the gap between impulse and becoming. We look at the cost. What does this reaction take from you? Your peace, your self-respect, your relationships? Reacting may feel powerful in the moment, but it pulls you further from your true self. Responding restores alignment. I teach what responding actually looks like. Slower, intentional, grounded in responsibility and awareness of consequence. Before we even get there, we return to the body. Escalation is often physical before it is emotional. We assess unmet needs: fatigue, hunger, overstimulation, built up stress. Dysregulation is not proof that something is wrong with you. It is proof that something needs attention. Then we practice the 4 R's. Respond. Choose who you are becoming in this moment, not who the emotion is trying to make you be. Release. Emotion must move. I hold space for it to be expressed without becoming destructive. Reset. We slow the moment down enough to understand what actually happened, what was felt, what was missed, what needs to be clarified. so balance can be restored within. Recharge. Recovery is not avoidance. It is regaining energy, focus, and hope. It is restoring capacity so you can meet life without depletion. The 4 R's are not just about calming down. They are about finishing the moment. Most people believe conflict is resolved when things go quiet, but silence is not resolution. Avoidance is not peace. When something is left unfinished, it returns. In the next disagreement, the next emotional distance, the next moment of disconnect. I help clients see clearly. Resolution means the issue is acknowledged, responsibility is owned, repair is attempted, a new way forward is chosen. Only then does the body settle. Only then does trust rebuild. I teach these skills both for prevention, so conflict does not escalate unnecessarily, and for resolution, so conflict does not repeat. Over time, people begin to value resolution. They stop fearing difficult moments. They stop pretending nothing happened. They learn how to move through conflict without losing themselves or each other. Resilience is not emotional suppression. It is a disciplined response that leads to real resolution. And that is how personal power stays intact, even in moments of discomfort. Reform in relationship. Reform is not only internal, it is revealed in how you live with others. The way you communicate, respond, listen, and show up in your relationships reflects the level of alignment you are living in. Many people struggle in relationships, not because they lack care, but because they're operating from patterns, reactions, and misalignment that were never addressed. Unresolved patterns do not stay contained within a person. They show up in tone, behavior, conflict, and disconnection. This is why internal reform and relational reform cannot be separated. In my work, we do not isolate personal growth from real life. We look at how you communicate, how you respond in conflict, how you take responsibility, how you respect boundaries, your own and others, how you contribute to the environment you're a part of. Because growth that does not show up in relationships is not yet fully lived. Family and natural supports. No one lives or grows in isolation. The environments people are a part of, especially family, play a significant role in both pattern formation and reform. In my work, I help people understand how they influence their environment, how their environment influences them, and how to move within it with more awareness, responsibility, and intention. Family is not always perfect. Support systems are not always consistent, but relationships still matter. People are guided to build stronger connections, develop reciprocity, communicate more effectively, and contribute to healthier dynamics over time. This includes learning how to repair when harm has been done, respect differences without creating conflict, and show up with consistency instead of reactivity. Reform in this area is not about controlling others. It is about becoming someone who contributes to better environments through how they live and respond. Conflict and resolution. Conflict is not the problem. how people move through conflict is. Most conflict is not about the situation itself. It is driven by emotional reactivity, misalignment, avoidance, or a lack of self-regulation. In my work, conflict becomes a point of learning. People are guided to recognize what is actually happening beneath the surface, take responsibility for their role, communicate more clearly, and move toward resolution instead of repetition. Avoidance does not resolve conflict. Silence does not complete it. When conflict is not properly addressed, it returns, often stronger. Resolution means the issue is acknowledged, responsibility is taken, repair is attempted, and a better way forward is chosen. This is how relationships strengthen instead of breaking. Perseverance. Sustained reform requires patience, persistence, purpose, potential, and possibility. The steady effort to move forward despite discomfort. Perseverance is not pushing harder. It is refusing to abandon becoming. Many people do not stop because they lack the ability. They stop because they lose patience. They decided it shouldn't take this long. They blame life, timing, or the universe. And slowly, that becomes a quiet, why bother? Perseverance interrupts that collapse. You must be patient and persistent. Patience is the refusal to retreat just because progress feels slow. It is staying long enough for the change to mature. It is being unwilling not to become. Persistence is not repeating the same mistake and calling it effort. It is trying again with awareness, adjusting, learning, continuing long enough for adaptation to occur so that real change has time to show itself. Purpose anchors you when emotion fluctuates. Without purpose, discomfort feels pointless. With purpose, discomfort becomes training. Potential fuels your hope. You are not finished. You are not limited to who you have been. Possibility restores vision when your hope meter feels low, when it feels like it's on E. Possibility keeps your eyes clear when nothing seems to be coming together. Patience keeps you present. Persistence keeps you engaged. Purpose drives direction. Potential fuels belief. Possibility protects hope. Together, they protect forward motion. Perseverance is not force. It is a disciplined belief in who you are becoming, even when you cannot yet see the full outcome. You do not need everything to align at once. You need to stay aligned long enough for it to. How I guide perseverance. The 5 Ps. Most people don't lose perseverance. They never had the chance to build it. They learned how to cope, how to endure short bursts, how to survive what hurts. But perseverance is different. It's what allows a person to stay connected to themselves over time, even when life is slow, uncertain, or heavy. When someone feels discouraged or close to giving up, I don't push them to try harder. I help them look differently. We shift attention away from what is draining them, the fear, the fixation, the noise and return to what still matters. Purpose, not as pressure, as orientation. Why does this matter to you? Who are you becoming through this? What part of you is asking not to be abandoned? Then we talk about potential, not in a motivational way, in a human one. There is more in you than what this moment is showing. More strength forming, more clarity coming, more life ahead. When hope feels low, possibility keeps the door open. From there, we slow down enough to talk about patience. Patience is not waiting for life to get easier. It's staying kind to yourself while you're still becoming. Impatience often sounds like, why bother? And why bother is where people disconnect from their own becoming. So we don't go there. Instead, we talk about persistence, the kind that thinks. Persistence doesn't mean doing the same thing over and over while suffering through it. It means listening, adjusting, trying again in a wiser way. Sometimes life isn't saying stop. It's saying, not like this. We redesign the approach. We honor redirection. We adapt without quitting. And we always return to possibility. Possibility reminds you that the future isn't closed, that growth doesn't announce itself right away, that staying engaged, even imperfectly, matters. Perseverance is not force. It's a way of living. It's choosing not to turn against yourself when things take time. It's continuing with intention. It's staying connected to purpose, even on the days nothing seems to move. And over time, this becomes your steadiness, not because life stopped challenging you, but because you learned how to stay. Moral character and reform in action. When reality is accepted and personal power is secured, moral character becomes visible through responsibility, integrity, boundaries, and reform-oriented leadership. When acceptance stabilizes, when endurance is understood, when personal power returns, when self-management is practiced and perseverance is sustained, reform becomes visible. Moral character is not something most people were handed. It wasn't always modeled. It wasn't always taught. It wasn't always embedded. Many learned how to survive. Few were guided in how to live with inner discipline and aligned values. This is not a flaw in who you are. It is a gap in what you were given. Moral characters can be developed. It grows when you begin choosing honesty over convenience, responsibility over blame, gratitude over resentment, integrity over impulse. Not perfectly, but consistently. It is the steady decision to live in alignment even when no one is watching. It is keeping your peace without becoming passive, navigating conflict without losing your self-respect, holding boundaries without hostility. This is resilience that has roots, not survival, not image, not performance. Wholeness. When moral development takes place, you are no longer split between who you present and who you are. You become integrated. And when you are integrated, you are free. Reform in action is not loud, it is steady, disciplined, and lived. This is the life beyond survival mode. Discovering moral principles and values. Before alignment is possible, values must be discovered. Many people have never been taught how to identify what they stand for. They may have preferences, reactions, or opinions, but not principles they consciously live by. So part of my work is helping them discover their moral foundations. We explore what kind of person they want to be, not in fantasy, but in real life. How they want to show up when things are hard, who they want to be when no one is watching, what they need to live with self-respect, peace, and integrity. Values are not chosen lightly. They are clarified through reflection, experience, and honest evaluation. I help them see how values function as internal guidance, how they shape decisions, boundaries, responses, and direction. Without lived values, alignment is not possible. You cannot align with yourself if you do not know what you are aligning to. As values become clearer and more consciously practiced, something shifts. Decision making becomes steadier. Self-trust strengthens. Inner conflict quiets. They begin to understand what best self actually means for them, not as perfection, but as integrity in motion. Moral development becomes the bridge between who they are now and who they are becoming. Who this work is for. This work is not limited by age. The need for guidance, self-discovery, and reform does not end in childhood. It continues through every stage of life. Children are still learning who they are. Adults are often learning. Adults are often living from what they learned, whether it served them or not. Many adults were never guided, though. They were never guided through moral development, emotional regulation, self-awareness, or how to face and accept reality. They learned through observation, experience, and survival, often without correction, redirection, or deeper understanding. This is not a flaw in who they are. It is a gap in what they were given. Because of this, adults often need the same core work as children. Not in the same way, but with the same level of care, awareness, and intention. In my work, I do not separate people by age. I meet them where they are in their development. Some children need guidance to build a foundation. Some adults need guidance to rebuild one. Both are valid. Both are necessary. How I approach this work across ages. The approach remains consistent. I guide self-discovery, I support moral development, I strengthen personal responsibility, I help build emotional regulation and resilience, I align behavior with values and reality. What changes is not the foundation, it is how the guidance is delivered. Children may need more modeling, structure, and repetition. Adults may need more reflection, unlearning, and accountability, but both require patience, clarity, consistency, and truth. No one is above learning. No one is beyond growth. Reform is available at any stage when a person is willing to engage it. Spiritual perspective. for those who understand it this way. While my work is grounded in lived experience, behavior, and personal responsibility, I also recognize that some people understand their inner world through a spiritual lens. In that view, the struggle between alignment and misalignment can be experienced as more than patterns or conditioning. Some may recognize it as a deeper internal battle, one that reflects influence, temptation, or a pull away from truth. What I describe as the false self, survival patterns, or misalignment may be understood by some as being led away from their core, and for others as a spiritual disconnection or misuse of free will. I do not require this perspective, but I do not dismiss it. For those who resonate with it, it can offer another layer of understanding, one that reinforces responsibility, awareness, and the importance of choosing alignment over distortion. Whether understood through life, behavior, or spirituality, the work remains the same. To see clearly, to take responsibility, to return to who you truly are. This is what I stand for. I meet people where they are, not to keep them there, but to walk beside them as they face what is real, break patterns, and return to themselves. I help people see clearly, to recognize that what they've come to know as themselves is not always who they truly are, but a version shaped by survival, avoidance, and influence, and that they can come back. I teach, challenge, and hold accountability, not to control a person's path, but to help them learn how to lead themselves through life. I help develop awareness, values, and lived principles so people are no longer lost, guessing, or reacting, but grounded in who they are and how they choose to live. I create space for truth, where life is understood, where patterns are faced, where every experience becomes something that strengthens, not something that breaks. I help people reclaim their personal power so they are no longer led by impulse, fear, or false identity, but become self-led, disciplined, and capable of living aligned. I walk with them as they face themselves, as they release what is not them, as they become who they are meant to be, not in theory, in how they live, in how they choose, in how they show up every day to become whole, to live in truth, to stand as their best self. This is the work. This is life. This is the reform. Thank you for taking the time to listen and to be present with something like this. I don't take that lightly. I hope you had fun with me as the most unprofessional professional you might speak to. But if something in this spoke to you, don't ignore it. Sit with it. Be real about what you heard. Be real about where you are. That's where this work actually starts. However this reached you, I trust that it met you in the right way. And I am rooting for you in the shadows. Be well, stay wise, stand resilient, and live as your best self.